There we go. Welcome, everybody. So recently we've been talking all about how you treat friends, how you treat those around you, whether they're significantly in your life or they just had some large effect on you and your life and how you view things. There is that saying, how many of you guys have heard that saying, that you're affected by those around you, right? We grew up hearing that, but I really don't think people realize how much the relationships and those around you affect you on a daily basis. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and what's going on. And part of this is because when we're looking at our life, and this has been said quite frequently to many of us throughout the years. How many of you guys have heard that saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Anybody heard that? Right? You know, that's how they are. They're not going to change. Right? A zebra can't change its stripes. Leopard can't change its spots. There's a reason all of those sayings are out there. Now, in order to change, though, there's a couple of things that need to happen. Number one is you got to become self-aware. You've got to work on those elements for yourself. Number two, you've got to, first know that you've got to work on them. Then you've got to actually work on them on your own. You got to be willing to overcome some of those obstacles. Number three, you got to change the environment. Number four, you got to change the people around you. If those things aren't happening, then you're right. The leopard isn't going to change its spots. The zebra isn't going to change its stripes. Nothing's going to change until all of those elements are worked on. So frequently we talk about self-awareness. So please take some time consistently to do that. Raise your level of emotional awareness. But there are other elements that come into play that we need to dive into. So number one, cynics are fond of their limiting belief that people can't change. They're wrong. As a Harvard psychologist, Sean Acker, points out in Big Potential, there is no scientific backing for this. Humans transmit emotions, attitudes, and belief to each other continuously. We alter people all the time. We do that. So you can alter the people that are around you just as much as they can alter you. That's one of the reasons when we're talking about sharing and expressing that gratitude and that thankfulness for others becomes important. Look, the key to being your best self is surrounding yourself with a strong system. Actively construct your social environment. Don't let it depend on the proximity or chance or on how it has always been, but consciously plan which opinions, attitudes, and life philosophies you do and do not allow to be in your life. You've got to take control. You've got to create your own bubble. Now, the pandemic created this society or forced us into seclusion in some cases, forced us to spend more time with people that even though they are our loved ones. I mean, be honest with yourselves. How many of you guys over the course of the last year realize that 24 hours a day with certain people, even if you're married to them for life, may be a bit extreme, right? People thought about working from home and it was something that they wanted to do until they started working from home and standing next to their person every single day of every week of every month. Like it got to be a lot. And you recognize that there was an influence that they were having on you, but then in similar regards, you were having an influence on them. And then how do we then create, with that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, how do we create that bubble when we're in the bubble that we're in now? How do we allow certain influences in and how do we influence others, right? Does that little soapbox make sense? Okay, so a couple of comments here. There is some disagreement as to the numbers. Research shows that intelligence are 50% of who you are and the rest is your life events. Yeah, so it's a lot of, but with that balance though, would you agree with the statement, Michael? And you may not, but a lot of who you are is a result of those events and those people that you spend time with. And then how much you allow that control to go out to someone else can help develop or become an obstacle to development in whichever direction you're going.
Actually, Andrew, if you imagine a piece of paper, when you're born, it's like a point, and your life, your phenotype, how you behave, it's like a cone going out.
Mm-hmm.
Is that anything inside that cone is what's come from your environment? Okay, I mean our genetics is sets like a cone that we can be in, but it's
Right.
how people treated us, how we treat them, that makes us where we are in the cone, even how we look.
Right. Yeah. And so here's some of those bad associations spoil useful habits. Absolutely, Forrest. So here we go. This saying of the 5 people, it actually came from Jim Rohn. This was years ago that he said that. But here's some studies. Okay. Nicholas Christakis, James Fowler, Framingham Heart Study. So you can go look this stuff up. Okay. If you want to write those guys down. I thought this study was so interesting. So according to their results, if a friend of yours becomes obese, you yourself are 45% more likely. It's more likely than just pure chance that you're going to gain weight over the next 2 to 4 years. 45%. If a friend of your friend becomes obese, your likelihood of gaining weight increases by about 20%, even if you don't know them. You may not even know the other person. It still increases your chance by 20%. If a friend of a friend of a friend, we're talking 3 layers out here, people. If they become obese, you are still 10% more likely than random chance to gain weight as well. Next, same guys. If your friend smokes, you're 61% more likely to be a smoker. If a friend of your friend smokes, you're 29% more likely to smoke. And a friend of a friend of a friend, the likelihood is 11%. You recognize that, guys? So it's not simply those people that are right around you. 3 layers out, you're still 10% more likely. Now, that's simply talking about obesity and smoking. Can we all agree that there is going to be at least some correlation? The numbers may be a little bit different, but there's going to be some correlation with income, with education, level of self-drive, self-motivation. Right? The ability, the willingness to work on yourself, all of these things are dictated so much by the people around you, not just who you grow up with, but who you are now spending your time with. And if you think, no, my friends are good, they're okay. Yeah, they may hang out with some people over there that are kind of crazy or that are drinking too much or they're doing drugs or, some of their friends may be, like people I wouldn't associate with, but I'm not really associating with them anyway. It's just who my brother is associating with. It's who my friends are like. It's not me directly associating with them. And yet I'm still 20 to 30% more likely to gain weight, to smoke, to not achieve what I want to financially. Do we see the correlation? How important this is, guys? It's so important. On the flip side of this, because we are so cynical in this life, it's much easier to go down that route of negativity. But the important thing to remember is that there is still something to be said with happiness. So if you look and it's a friend of a friend of a friend, so we're 3 layers out there, you still have a 6% greater likelihood of being happy. If all of the friends around you are happy, you're going to be happier. If their friends are happy, you're going to be happier. If their drama and if they are stressed and dramatic and they're dealing with their life struggles in a negative way, that's going to reflect back. If they're happy and they're doing what they can in order to be happy, it's going to reflect back. Now, 6%, you go, well, that's not a big deal. Look, studies have shown over and over and over again that a $10,000 raise would only trigger about a 2% increase in your happiness. So if a friend of a friend of a friend, and I know these numbers are off and I'm just using them as an example purpose, let's say it holds true at that 2%. Well, let's say then if we multiply that 3, we're somewhere between that 6 to 10%. So a friend of a friend of a friend is happy. It's the same thing as you getting from a happiness scale, a $30,000 raise. It alleviates stress. If your friend of a friend of a friend is happier, you're going to feel happier. You're going to feel less stress. Can we see how significant that is, those people around you? All right. Dr. David Mcclellan, Harvard social psychologist, said the people you habitually associate with can determine as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. The people that you habitually associate with can determine as much as 95% of your success or failure in life. You are not the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. It is way bigger than that. You're the average of all of the people who surround you and that surround them. So take a look. Now, real quick, what if you're an introvert? There are still people that are around you, David, There's still some association going on. Look at where you're getting most of your connection, right? And now we're in this virtual world where a lot of it's going to be one way. And that's just the reality. You know, some of the people that I spend the most time listening to or that I'm connected with the most are certain, you know, mentorship programs or coaching programs that I'm a part of, that I'm paying this mentor for, or that I'm paying for this coaching program, where it's going to be a virtual video and then an occasional call. And it's absolutely lopsided in the amount of contact and direction. But I only go after those mentors that are kind of living the way I want to live, that are experiencing and expressing the type of happiness and joy and fulfillment and level of fulfillment in their life that I want, because those vibes come out no matter what's happening, right? Look, I've been doing this now for a while. I know some of you guys have been around for months. I know you can feel when I'm stressed because it comes out, right? I know you can feel when things are going well because that comes out. So the question is those that are around you, or at least where you're pulling your information from. Look, some of it may be TV. If you're constantly watching, I don't know, CSI, Law and Order, right? Like, I can't even watch some of that because the drama that's there. I don't need to bring that extra nonsense in my life. And yet, why do people go towards it? Is because it reflects this. And look, I'm obviously not a psychologist, but my feeling why a lot of people like watching those is because the level of drama and suspense and violence and everything else is higher in those shows than in their life. So you get this little bit of feeling of like, well, at least that's not going on. When in truth, you should be, you know, how many of you guys have ever sat and, whether it's on maybe one of these calls or listening to affirmations or watching something like The Secret or getting on, you know, YouTube or Amazon or wherever, watching a documentary that is uplifting, but at times watching it, there's almost this feeling like where you lose a little bit of comfort because you're going, my life isn't there, right? I need to do more. I should be more. This is inspirational, but man, am I being inspirational in my own life? Honestly, think about it. I think oftentimes that level of discomfort comes because it's necessary for us to break through. And it's why people struggle with that and why we allow ourselves to associate with people that aren't pushing themselves, because if they're not pushing themselves, and I don't have to push myself as hard. And if I'm doing just a little bit, if everybody else is here and you guys are showing up for these calls, or maybe you're watching on a replay and you're here, well, hey, I'm doing better than they are. But really what they're doing is dragging you down. And if life is here, you got to be willing to live here. And it's rare air. It can be lonely. And so you really have to build a community of support. That's what he's talking about with the system there and those around you. So a couple of other comments. Notice in my early adult life, whenever I was happily in love, my kindness to others increased. Absolutely. Absolutely, Michael. Love is one of those things, especially when it's love reciprocated and you're actively working on it, because love is a verb. You know, when you're actively putting that out there because it is service, it is, you know, when you want to get into the King James Version and the definition of charity and everything else, you know, there's a lot more to it than simply a feeling of infatuation. When you're actively living in love and gratitude and more, then there you go. So how do you disconnect from them? Birds of a feather, birds that stay together, flock together. Yep. Flock together, stay together, all this. I'll get back to Jay. You're asking about how you disconnect. Few of us pay attention, active attention to body language, which is something which our emotional bodies are attuned to. Yep. So learning about body language is important, especially I feel over the course of the last year or longer with social media. Over the course of the last decade, we have become less accustomed to body language because we're not spending as much time in front of people. And even when you're in front of people, oftentimes you've got a phone in your hand, you're kind of looking down, you're not paying attention to what's happening. When you're with friends, you're not paying attention to them, you're kind of looking around the room, or you're not present in the moment. That plays out, absolutely. And you need to work on all of that. Become aware and acknowledge, then you're more able to move forward. Yeah. So all of this, guys, if you want to work on those around you, I'm going to share a couple of other things here, but it starts with self-awareness, right? It gets into this emotional intelligence, right? It's a great book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. You can study a bunch of other places. There's a lot of different places that you can look up about emotional intelligence, but all of this starts with self-awareness and self-management. If I want to become more emotionally aware, it starts with me. I got to know where I'm at, where I'm lacking. So sometimes that involves then and then after you get into that, then it becomes social awareness and social management. It's those relationships and how I am perceived as well as how I am perceiving others. I want you to honestly think how many people you have that you could reach out to right now and say, listen, I'm working on my emotional intelligence. I'm working on my level of self-awareness. How do I come off to other people? Are you willing to ask someone that you could get an honest and unfiltered answer without becoming defensive? That's the hard part. That's something we all struggle with. Now, here's a way that you can ask someone. Hopefully you've got somebody in your life. Moms are great. If you ask them honestly and say, Mom, I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I know you're my mom and you might be a little biased, but I want you to tell me, right? A friend, a lover, maybe the kids, anybody. You're going to say, listen, I know I might get a little defensive, but I want you to know that I love you. And I want to hear this. And I need to raise my level of self-awareness. I'm working on me. And it's not easy for me to do. And it's kind of humbling trying to ask you about it, but let me know. What do you think about me? How do I come off? How do other people perceive me? Ask that. And I promise it can be helpful. Okay. So that's one way to do it. Okay. Now, when we're looking at, let me see, daily raise and vibration. Okay. Let me dive a little bit deeper in here. Core qualities. This is something that I look at. Now, when I look at my close circle, those that are in my life constantly, these are a couple things that I look for. You've got to make your own list of core qualities. Are they healthy, spirituality, self-awareness, success, positivity, knowledge, outlook, experience, ethics, wisdom? The uplifting? Are they patient? The perseverance that they have in their life? Are they resilient? This is a list of the core qualities that I look for. Now, with that said, how many supermen do we have out there? How many perfect people do we have out there? How many people do we have that really truly have every single one of those core qualities? I think I've met a handful maybe in my life, right? If you've got someone in your life that doesn't reflect every one of the core qualities, and make your own list, make 5, 10, something. It's going to be one of your exercises for today. I want you to make a list of core qualities. And I want you to look at it and then say, okay, do they have some of these? Maybe the person that I want to be my mentor or in my circle that's got the financial success and everything else, maybe there's a couple other things that they're not as great at, but I'm okay with because I'm getting that reinforced over here. As long as they don't hold negative qualities that just overshadow. And I don't mean, we have to be honest in how we're looking at them and evaluate fairly, because again, nobody's perfect. And so if you're trying to get people in your life that are perfect, you're going to struggle. If you're trying to get people in your life but then as well, if you try to use that judgment and say, well, they're not perfect, so I'm going to allow them to stay in, you need to look at the overall balance of the scales. Are they a net positive for you or are they a net negative? Right? Do they hold enough of these core qualities where maybe they lack some of the qualities, but it's not that they have an abundance of the negative? Does that explanation make sense for you guys? When I look at what's going on, and I look at allowing people to kind of spend some time in my life, I'm willing to do some mentorship. I'm willing to have conversations with, but my inner circle is tight and it forever will be. And it takes a lot to get into that. And it's almost like they need a referral to get there, right? Like I need to be introduced and they, that's how my buddy Jason, that I've had on here before that became my mentor, he was introduced to me from a best friend from Chris, who was on here as well, right? I met Jason, and that's how I really got into internet marketing. Like, I had my failures, and then I met Jason through Chris, because Chris was like, hey, you should meet him if this is something you're trying to do. And then that became that relationship. And now we're dear, dear friends because of that, right? So it's almost like in business. Now, that's the way I do it. Okay. You've got to kind of decide, but I'm looking for people that I know that their circle is a quality circle. If I look and I go, man, they're hanging out at, for me, if they're hanging out at the bar, or they're doing this, or they're just lazy or whatever, then no, it's not going to work for me. What all of us really need is to have genuine friends who we know love us. Yeah. But that's where to get to that level, you got to be willing to have some of those tough conversations with them as well. Talk about life too. It doesn't just have to be about you. People tiptoe. I mean, honestly, show of hands or just a comment in the chat box. How many of you guys over the last year and a half have been real careful about every conversation that you've had around anybody, even if they're a dear friend, because you're worried about offending somebody? Even if you know they're not going to be offended, they may know somebody that's going to be offended. And now we're just all sitting in this glass box like, oh my gosh, kids' gloves, I can't do anything. We're afraid to talk about life. We're afraid to talk about politics. We're afraid to talk about, religion. We're afraid to talk about anything, finances, success, anything, because, oh my gosh, who am I going to offend? And I love the fact, hopefully you guys, like, I want to just have open and honest and transparent conversations with anybody. Yeah. Trump, Israel, the left, the right, finances, COVID, sitting at home, personal health, personal responsibility versus the government stepping in and controlling it, like all of these different topics. Everybody, oh my gosh, I don't want to say anything, right? Look back at your life, guys. Like, I grew up in a neighborhood in Oakland, California, where like it was about as mixed as you could get, and then I went from there to this town in Prescott, Arizona, where everybody looked like me, or like they had just come across the border from Mexico, right? Some of my best friends. And then I go to Brazil, and I'm down in Rio de Janeiro, in a city of 12 million, where talk about a rainbow of people. And then you look at life and it's like, we have to be careful with everybody. And what about our circle and our circle of influence and what's going on and all of these things? We have to be willing to be honest and open with our circle, or it's going to be rough. It's going to be difficult to grow. And if anything, you shrink down. Okay. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but there you go. One can tell the truth to most anyone if the words are chosen correctly. Yeah, absolutely. But it's why body language is useful. And we can, but we're so scared of someone throwing up this wall of, oh my gosh, be careful. Right? So I look for those core qualities. And one of those core qualities is the ability to just have a conversation. Right? You've got to be willing to have those with your dear friends. So, all right, next. Start to look at your network of geniuses. This is something I'm going to get a little more into this tomorrow, because from here later this week, I'm going to talk about joint business ventures, joint partnerships online and in social media, and how to use this. But here's what I want you guys to think about. Your genius network is a concept that came about from Joe Polish when I was doing Piranha Marketing. I want you to think of your core group, your Power Five. So here's your 2 homework assignments. First thing is, you're going to create a list of core qualities that you want present. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to create your network of genius. What I want you to do is write out for now who they are. Your top 5, your top 10 people that you spend time with. And if you look and go, I really don't even spend time with 5 people, then where are you getting your information from? Is Netflix in your top 5? Is Facebook in your top 5? Whatever it is. So I want you to go first to look at, and if they're in here, and here are the questions. Who are they? Wisdom that they have, the power qualities that they've got, how I can help them, and then how they can help me. If you can't answer the how I can help them, then part of that's going to be in our conversation tomorrow. But if you struggle with how I can help them, and you're just but right away you can name how they can help you, then there's a problem. and you're not you're not in a relationship that's reciprocal. And so you're not going to get they're never going to help you as much as they could because you're unwilling or haven't even thought about how you can help them. That's just the reality. If you haven't figured out how you can help them in some way, then they're never going to help you as much as possible. But if you can figure this out and you can fill it with people that fill this core quality and you can build a strong group around you, there's nothing you won't be able to accomplish. So here's your homework, guys. Number one, you are going to create a list of core qualities, 5 to 10 people, or 5 to 10 qualities, 5 to 10 qualities, core qualities. These are things that I want present as much as possible in everybody that I associate with, right? Core qualities. Everybody cool there? Next, your Power 5, your genius network, your network of geniuses, your circle of influence, whatever you want to call it. If you want to come up with a cool name, great. Come up with it. 5 to 10 people that you think should be in this, that are in that group right now. Positive or negative, I want you to write down. So maybe what we do right now is not create our circle of genius that we want. Maybe what we need to do first is the 5 people that we have the most time with to start with, and then we need to create another list. So I'm giving you more homework. Does that make sense? Core qualities, 5 people I spend the most time with now, whoever they are, and then the 5 that I want to spend time with. And hopefully you get 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 of those people, and you can make a list of 5 or 10 or whatever, but you're going to make a list of the 5 people you have the most time with right now. Hopefully a couple of those end up on your genius list. Like this is the list that I want to have. This isn't my moonshot list because we're going to get into that. I'm going to talk to you about some of those on the next call. Those are the people that I want influencing my life in one way or another. I'm going to figure out how to get there. I'm going to talk to you guys about that. But what I want is the list of people that are right now influencing, and then you're going to also create the list of people that are that you want to be able to influence, that you could reach out to, and if you did help them in some way, then they would start to become a bigger part of your life. And we're going to talk about how to develop that relationship out in a positive manner that will allow you to take advantage of it. Okay. Yeah. The big leap, the genius list, all of this. So, Forrest, a toxic relationship, I don't know the clinical definition. My definition, if I have someone that is a drain on me in whatever way, or that derails me from my goals, and it doesn't even have to be my big plans. It could just be any time that I have that communication with them, it brings me down, or causes me a little bit of anxiety, or it frustrates me, or it raises my level of anger or drama or whatever, or I just kind of shake my head like, oh my gosh, can't believe I have to talk to them right now. That's someone I'm not going to maintain in my core group. And that may be family members, maybe brothers and sisters. Yeah, emotional vampires, absolutely. Right? And some of them may be, in the old stories, draining you when you're sleeping. You don't even realize it. It's just draining you. And then others may be up front attacking you. And you've got to be aware of either one. Think about if you're in a relationship and you go 3 or 4 days not seeing someone, and all of a sudden it feels a little bit lighter. Or if when you're here's something and I know most of you guys are kind of past this age, but if the only time you really get together is to go drink or to sit around and bitch about your life, that's not a positive relationship. If when you get together, you talk about how great family is doing, how awesome you're doing, the projects that you're working on, and the book that you're reading, that's positive. Sitting around and fussing about COVID and politics and this and that and this conspiracy or that conspiracy, whether it's real or not so positive, kind of toxic, because there's nothing that you can pull from that that's going to uplift you, right? You've got to kind of decide, Forrest, on the level of toxicity that you allow. And that's the reality. Here's the problem with toxicity and stress and negativity. It will always be more prevalent than the positive side in the world that we're in right now. Go look at the news. Inspiration doesn't sell, like it doesn't create viewers. Good stories don't create viewers. What the drama, the blood, the anger, the frustration, that's what is always out there. That's what people want to talk about. So if I'm already fighting against that in the world around me, my core five, the people that are spending the most time around, like that are close to me, in a way serve as insulation. And if we want to get extra insulated, then we hope that their group also insulates us. Because if it doesn't, then you better be damn strong. You better strengthen yourself like, the Rock of Gibraltar kind of thing, where nothing will tear you down. But if you don't have that insulation, then what happens is there was just recently, within the last couple of weeks, if you guys want to go look, the arch near the Galapagos Islands fell. It was finally eroded after thousands and thousands of years of this gorgeous, amazing, towering natural arch out in the middle of the ocean. The wind, the rain finally broke that rock through. Now, are you going to stand out there like that arch and just hope that you can withstand everything that's around you? Or are you going to be the mountain that's a little further in, surrounded by other mountains, strengthening each other? And that's what you have to kind of decide on, how much of that toxicity you're going to allow in your life and how much light you can bring in from other people, and then how much light you can shine on them. So, ladies and gentlemen, your homework, core qualities, your core group that's around you right now, and then look at the core group that you would like around you. Hopefully there's some overlap there and you've got some of the next ones, but we are going to get a little bit deeper into this tomorrow. We're going to talk about how to really build up some of those positive relationships, especially with those that you want to bring into that core five. On that note, guys, go out, be the rocks of Gibraltar that you should be the phoenixes that you should be, rise up as always, go and be amazing. Take care, buddy. We'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.